My name is Brian H. Larson, and this is Mental Awesomeness, where we solidify your foundation for personal creation. And tonight we're super excited to talk about two really important, cool things. In fact, we feel like it's a perfect opportunity to merge them. We've got our 4 core concepts fundamental for success. And we've also got this new opportunity that is brewing. Not necessarily new, it's been around a little bit, but it's getting a ton of attention lately, and it's really starting to gain traction, and that is cryptocurrency. So tonight we're going to combine the two and talk about how to have the right mindset to enter into a new opportunity. And also you'll be able to learn about some key things about cryptocurrency to help you get started, if that's something that you would like to do. So we will go ahead and get going now. So as I mentioned before, there are 4 core concepts fundamental for success. And principle number 1 is, who do you listen to? This is imperative because who you listen to impacts the way you think, which impacts the way you feel, which impacts the way you act, which impacts the results you get, and ultimately impacts the lifestyle that you're currently living. So who you have listened to has had a significant impact on the way you live your life today. And that's why this is so important. So where you spend your time reading books, listening to podcasts, vlogs, blogs, TV, music, movies, all of these things impact our mindset. And that's the mindset or the lens with which we see the world as we go about our daily lives. And through that lens is how we perceive opportunity as well. That's why it's so important that you listen to people that will elevate you. And if you're spending 8 to 10 hours a week watching Netflix and you're not necessarily happy with the results in your life, then this is an opportunity to realize that maybe it would be better to spend that time listening to someone that can help you improve the circumstances of your life. And trust me, I was there. I have had to do a lot of personal development to get where I am today. But over the years, I've also invested tens of thousands of dollars in personal development, in the books, in the courses, in the trainings, going to seminars, purchasing coaching, purchasing mentoring. I can't even count the courses and things that I procured, and those have all helped solidify a better mindset than I had before. And so by listening to those types of people, I have been able to significantly improve the circumstances that I now live in. And it's been a process, and it always is a process because the law of the harvest says so. The way things work here on planet Earth is you reap what you sow, right? So you must plant the seed, and you must continually ensure that the seed is watered and protected and gets the sunlight and nutrients that it needs in order to get the plant to eventually develop the fruit that you want. If you throw a seed on concrete, it's highly unlikely that that seed is going to bloom and blossom, which would be like planting a new business venture into a poor mindset. Same thing as throwing seeds onto concrete, right? Like if your mind has not been fertilized and prepared, then you're not likely going to see the results that you may think that you want or that you deserve, but you haven't achieved yet. And so planting that seed into a nourished, trained mind that's open and ready to absorb and learn and grow and do, most importantly, consistently over time, will help you see the results that you want. And I hope that makes sense. So that is the importance of principle number 1. So tonight we're going to talk about cryptocurrency and what that means. Surely by this point, you've at least heard of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency. It actually released in 2009. And it has taken about, 11, 12 years to get to the point where it's really starting to gain a lot of traction. And in the last 10 years or so, you have probably heard something or other of Bitcoin. And some of it may have been negative, some of it may have been positive. But going back to principle number one, who you listen to will impact if you actually decide to do anything with Bitcoin. So previously, the richest man in the world was Warren Buffett. And what he had to say about Bitcoin was that cryptocurrencies are worthless. They basically have no value. They don't produce anything. You can't do anything with it except sell it to someone else. That was his interpretation of Bitcoin even in 2020. So he has not been a proponent. And if you listen to Warren Buffett only, then you likely would not do anything with Bitcoin. However, the current richest person in the world, which is now Elon Musk, who passed Warren Buffett in 2020, is now seriously considering investing billions of his Tesla fortune directly into Bitcoin because he now understands what it's capable of. So the question is, what is it capable of? What is Bitcoin? And I want to cover that here because that's part of the process tonight to learn and understand more about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin, is a cryptocurrency, which means it is money that is digital and it's held on the blockchain. And you may have heard this word blockchain before, and it may have turned you off because you're like, what in the world? It may seem super complex or overcomplicated. So in a super simple form, blockchain is a ledger that records transactions and then creates a hash, which is a form of security, so that that line of transaction cannot be tampered with. And so, for example, back in the day, if I paid Jeff $5 and I wrote down in my notebook that I paid Jeff $5, and Jeff wrote in his notebook that I paid him $5, then our ledgers would be identical. And let's say Jeff does some work for me, so I pay Jeff $10, and we both write it down in our ledgers. And then Jeff does some more work for me, and I can only pay Jeff $5 at the time, but it was $10 worth of work. So I write that in my ledger, but Jeff accidentally writes it down as though I did the $10 of work. So Jeff would then be missing $5 worth of his work, and our ledgers would be off. I wrote down that I had 5. Jeff wrote down that he received 10, so it would be incorrect, right? And what the blockchain does is it's a third party for that ledger. It ensures that, number one, my input is accurate and Jeff's ledger is accurate always. It is incorruptible. The hashes are basically their security, so that they cannot be changed or breached. And then it actually goes through a process of jumbling the hash so that it's illegible unless you have the proper coin or the proper key. So just trying to keep it simple, is the blockchain is a ledger that ensures that the transactions are trusted and that they cannot be tampered with. So that's what Bitcoin is. How great, right? You know that your money is accurately recorded and it cannot be tampered with. And that's what Bitcoin does. And what's super interesting about Bitcoin is that there's a limited supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin ever produced. And so because of that, as demand rises for those coins, so then does the value, because it's a limited supply. And so that's one thing that makes Bitcoin very interesting. And that's why it's received so much traction, is because it's decentralized, meaning no one could take your Bitcoin away from you. It is in the ledger and it is impossible to remove without your permission. So that's a great thing. Bitcoin is the first edition, if you will, of the blockchain. And now there are multiple editions. By the way, there are thousands of coins that are out there that are building on blockchains. And so there's another coin that I would like to mention briefly, and that is called Ethereum. And Ethereum is kind of the second edition of blockchain usage. And what Ethereum does is it makes smart contracts that anyone can apply. So it's almost kind of like going to Amazon to use the cloud. You go to Ethereum to use a blockchain smart contract. And so those are the two largest cryptocurrencies. Number one is Bitcoin. Number two is Ethereum, which is why I bring it up. It is a smart contract blockchain, and there are so many applications that can be used for it. Just quickly, think of healthcare, right? If you go to a doctor and the doctor puts your notes, you want to make sure that the notes are accurate and that it's not possible to be breached security or changed by someone who shouldn't do it. And if another doctor gets the key that is shared by the other doctor, they can immediately have an accurate history of your transactions with the other doctor, so that they can immediately see what you've done. So that's one possible example of utilizing Ethereum blockchain smart contracts. So I want to show you something real quick over here to speak to the momentum that Bitcoin is gaining. Let's see here if I can bring this up. Yep. So this is within the last 24 hours. eToro, which is an exchange where you can trade your Bitcoin, just like the stock exchange, where you put your US dollars or your fiat currency into the exchange and in return you get stock. That's exactly what cryptocurrency exchanges do. You give them your money, they exchange it for coins. There is a small fee, but then you get your coins and now you are the owner of Bitcoin. Well, eToro is one of these exchanges that you can purchase Bitcoin from. And in the last 24 hours, they warned that crypto trading may become limited due to unprecedented demand. What you've got to understand about Bitcoin is that this is a worldwide global currency. So anyone from anywhere that has access to the internet and an exchange and a few dollars can literally buy Bitcoin. And so the demand for it, now that it's really starting to gain traction globally, especially for the decentralized aspect of it, meaning it cannot be taken away from you, has really created a large demand for Bitcoin. And the price of Bitcoin has also increased significantly because of that demand. And so even though Warren Buffett has never really been a fan of cryptocurrency, I would imagine he's trying to protect his interests because he's probably friends with high-level bankers and people like that are in a very centralized, controlled environment. And crypto is almost the antithesis of that, where it's decentralized, meaning, oh, well, we've covered that, right? No one can ever take it from you, and it's very secure. So that is what is super interesting about Bitcoin currently. It is growing a ton in demand and value at the same time. In fact, it's the demand that increases the value. So one exchange that I want to make you aware of is called Coinbase. This is the #1 exchange in the United States. It's the easiest way to get set up. It's got a great UI, so it's super friendly and easy to use. It's got an app for your phone as well. And this is where most people come to get started, and where I would recommend that you come to get started if you want to buy Bitcoin for the first time. So you can just go to Coinbase.com and follow the simple getting started steps. It does take a few days though, because they verify your ID and things like that. It can take up to a couple of days. And if you wanted to tie your bank account to it, you could do that. But I just wanted to make you aware, right? What is Bitcoin? What is blockchain? What is an exchange? And where could I go if I wanted to? If I want to follow the steps of not only Elon Musk, who might dump billions into Bitcoin, if he can even get them, interestingly, right? And the growing demand for Bitcoin. So what I would recommend that you do this year, right now, as a matter of fact, if you were interested in investing in cryptocurrency, I would recommend buying Ethereum. One Bitcoin is worth about $39,000 today. Literally today, it was 39.2, something like that. But one Ethereum is only about $1,200 right now, and it's projected that it could easily surpass $10,000 in value this year. So the return on your investment is truly greater in Ethereum this year than Bitcoin. And so I would recommend Ethereum. Now, who do you listen to, right? You got to go do some homework and look up Bitcoin, look up Ethereum, and determine if you would like to invest. I would recommend it, but I've got to make this one big disclaimer right now. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a professional. I'm simply sharing some information that worked out really well for me, because last year in 2020, I was able to grow a multiple six-figure cryptocurrency portfolio with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so it did really well for me. And I'm sharing that information with you now because it is definitely not too late. They're both poised to do very big things this year, but I actually believe there's a bigger opportunity with Ethereum than Bitcoin this year. Alrighty, very good. Let us move on to principle number 2. Principle number 2 is Teachability Index. And the Teachability Index consists of 2 parts. Part 1 is your willingness to learn. And part 2 is your willingness to accept change. And what you do is you give yourself a score from 1 to 10 on willingness to learn and your willingness to accept change. So let's say I'm interested in learning about cryptocurrency, especially now, right? Now that you're hearing that there's crazy demand and that it really is the future of money. So you are now willing to learn about this. Let's say you score yourself 8 out of 10 now. But now the second part of that equation is willingness to accept change. This means you might actually have to do something different than you currently are in order to capitalize on the cryptocurrency opportunity. And kind of speaking to that now, this is literally like hearing about the internet when it was young. The internet was released in 1991, the World Wide Web, and Amazon released its stock in 1997 at $18 a share. Now, if you were to put $10,000 into Amazon when they IPO'd, your $10,000 would currently be worth about $12 million. And I genuinely believe we are looking at that type of opportunity in cryptocurrency. Just take a moment to reflect on where we are in this moment in history. It is literally like being at the beginning of the internet, where cryptocurrencies and blockchains and smart contracts are really starting to take hold. And don't take my word for it. You can look and see that Microsoft has developed their own blockchain, Amazon, IBM, These are big players that have invested billions of dollars into the blockchain because they know where this technology is going. And you are at a moment in time where it is still extremely young. And so you can take advantage of that opportunity and profit as though you procured Amazon stock at a very early, very low price. So, as that relates to willingness to accept change, you might have to change something, right? And how you want to go about that is your business. But maybe rather than investing a ton into your 401k, maybe you take some of that money and invest it into, like I said earlier, Ethereum is really, in my opinion, and from those that I've been listening to, and trust me, I pay attention to who I listen to, they say that Ethereum is the bigger opportunity right now. It's January 14th, 2021. So I would recommend that maybe you take some of that money and start investing into Ethereum and watch what it does for you. It's going to be a big year for Ethereum, and that is how you could benefit. That's one way, right? Maybe you change a habit that you have. Maybe if you eat out 2 or 3 times a week, maybe you stop doing that and you pack lunch so that you could, even if it's $50 a week or something like that, that you could put in. Your money will grow. There's no, I'm confident in that. Now, from the daily perspective, you will see ebbs and flows. I have watched my portfolio literally escalate tens of thousands of dollars up and or down in one day, and that is very common for this market because it's kind of volatile. But the approach I'm taking and that I recommend you take is that you buy and hold, because no matter the volatility in the middle, the direction is that it is going up. And in fact, Ethereum at the beginning of 2020 was only about $100 per coin, and at the end it was $1,200 per coin, and in the middle it was all over the place. So don't necessarily worry too much. I'm really not going to talk about trading Bitcoin. I'm just going to talk about buying and holding and watching the value grow, or I should say cryptocurrencies. So are you willing to learn? Are you willing to make changes? And if you are, then you'll likely see different results. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if I'm an 8 willing to learn, but I'm only a 2 in willing to change, then my score, you multiply those together, 8 times 2 is 16 out of a possible 100, 10 times 10. And you're likely not going to see results in this particular example if your score is a 16. It's just not it's not going to happen right now. Now, if you're willing to learn and you're willing to make changes in that you start listening to podcasts about cryptocurrency or reading blogs or going to YouTube and finding some of the top people out there to listen to what they have to say about it and where it's going, and then eventually your willingness to accept change increases so that you actually make a change, then you will actually eventually see results. And that's perfectly fine. In fact, it brings me to a story that I want to share right now. I currently work for a technology company, and I was part of the company when we went public. So I had an opportunity to buy stocks. There was an employee stock purchase program, and the employees could buy at 15% off of the launch price of $15, so that would have made it $12.75. And in a one-time offer, they would have allowed you to make a maximum contribution of $25,000 and for 6 months. Now, typically, the maximum contribution for 1 year is $25,000, but this one time they're going to allow you to do $25,000 for 6 months, and then after that 6 months you could do up to another $25,000 for the next year. Well, I heard that some people were going out and getting HELOCs on their homes, home equity line of credit, so that they could benefit from that and put all 25,000 in for the first 6 months and then reinvest again after that 6 months. Well, I was like, there's no way I'm going to go leverage my house to buy stock. Like, that just isn't happening. So I did not do it. Well, guess what happened? 6 months later, the stock tripled. So their 25,000 was then worth 75,000. And they had an opportunity to put up to another 25,000 over the course of the next year into the employee stock purchase program, and at 15% off of the lowest price. So no matter what, they could essentially make 15%. Well, in hindsight, as I looked at that, I was like, oh man, what was I thinking? I actually work for the company. I know it's solid. I know it's good. I know it's got a ton of traction. I know initially, especially, it's going to have a ton of hype. And so I was like, well, I missed that window. And that's the point I want to make right now. Opportunities have windows and they will close if you do nothing. And again, I want to come back to this point in history. I hope you'll take a moment to do some research and recognize where we are. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, blockchain, smart contracts, these are all in their infancy still. You have not by any means missed the wave. And this window will not stay open forever, just like my window to invest in the 6-month program at the full value. That window closed and I missed it. So the next time it opened up, I did go get a HELOC. I did invest all the full capacity. And after it had grown significantly, I recognized an opportunity in my life to pay off a significant amount of debt because the stock had risen. And so at that point, I did sell my stock and I paid off a whole bunch of debt. And so there was a tremendous benefit to my family because of that decision. Was there risk? Of course there was. Did I leverage my house at the time to make that risk? Yes, I did. But guess what? I just heard one of my friends say, sometimes to get the biscuit, you gotta risk it. And I love that. And it's so true. No risk, no reward. Now, obviously, you want to be very careful about the risk and you want to take very calculated risks. I felt like after missing the first window that I did take a calculated risk and it did pay off. And guess what? In 2020, I sold more of that stock and moved it to Bitcoin and Ethereum because I saw bigger potential than the company that I'm currently working at. Nothing against the company, but I recognize this opportunity in history of where we are right now. And so I moved my stock into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and guess what? It's done extremely well. And so there we are. There's the Teachability Index. That is principle number 2. Principle number 1, who do you listen to? Principle number 2, Teachability Index. Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to accept change? I know you've heard the definition of insanity as doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. There must be change. If you want something to change in your life, you got to do something different. I know you get that, and I know that makes sense, but actually doing it is a different part. I love what Stephen Covey said. If you know but don't do, you really don't know. You must know and do to truly know. And so this applies to so many aspects of life, right? Tonight we're talking about an opportunity to potentially invest in something new with cryptocurrency. But think about how that could apply to your health or your relationships. You always have the opportunity to change and improve, but it's going to require doing something different. Alrighty, let's move on to principle number 3, which is training, balance, scale. So imagine, if you will, a scale, and on one side of the scale is the how to do something. And on the other side of the scale is the why you do something. Now, it might seem like it makes sense that these are balanced, right? Like maybe your how to and your why to should have some amount of balance. And I like to make sure that I put some notes down. I'll put this up real quick. Okay, so the how-tos are your actions, your movements, your techniques, your action steps, your plans, the activities that you do, and your why to is your thoughts, your desires, your thinking, your goals, your attitude, your mental processes, your intention, your emotions, your energy, right? So did you get that? One is processes, actions, movements, activities, strategies, techniques. The other is thoughts, desires, goals, energy. And what I submit to you is that one is 99% more important than the other. And the question is, which one? Is it better to have a plan of action, or is it better to have a goal with a good attitude? I guess those are kind of saying, right? Not a plan of action. Plans are on the how-to. Strategies, techniques, or is it better to have a good attitude, positive thoughts, good energy, strong emotions? Which one is it? It is the why, the energy, the thoughts, the emotions, your intentions are so much more. Why is that? Because the how-tos are literally all around us. They are surrounding us everywhere. In fact, people around you are really thriving in a host of how-tos. There are millionaire lawyers and doctors and plumbers and electricians and truck drivers. Yeah, because eventually they decide to start their own truck driving company and they can make millions, right? So the how-tos are abundantly everywhere. Cryptocurrency, internet marketing, sales, marketing. They're literally everywhere. They're all around us. But it doesn't really matter the how-to, right? In fact, it's like a resolution. You might have a plan to get out here and do something different in 2021. And now here we are 2 weeks in. And let's be real. Did you actually do and keep doing? Are you still doing what you set out to do 2 weeks in? It's super interesting because I like to go to the gym in the morning, and I just watched this happen, and I'm not joking. Towards the end of the year and the first couple days of the year, the gym was packed. In fact, it was annoyingly packed because I couldn't even get to the things that I was there to do. So I had to find other things other than what I had planned for the day to do. But only 2 weeks in, it is thinned out tremendously. And that is very common, right? Because they loved the idea of the how-to and the potential end result that it might get, but they really didn't dig deep enough as to why to. And, one experience that I've had very recently in my life is I loved drinking Diet Coke. Can't deny it. And I drank quite a bit of it, at least a liter a day. And I probably did that for a few years, definitely longer than I should. But guess what? I noticed that I was having headaches, and not just like dull headaches. I was like having migraine-like headaches. When you're nauseous because of your headache, I'm pretty sure that qualifies as a migraine. And I was missing out on things all the time. And I assumed that that much soda every day was probably not contributing to my health, and that it could be the cause. So even before the new year, in about mid-December, I was like, that's it. I'm so tired of these headaches that my reason why to stop grew. I was like, if it's soda related, I'm done. I'm so tired of these headaches. So I finally identified a big enough reason why for myself, and I stopped cold turkey literally one day. Um, and and within a few days, of course I went through the kind of the caffeine withdrawals and the headaches that followed. But after a few days, I started feeling better, and I haven't had a headache since. So it makes sense, right? And so what I'm getting at with that is that my why, which unfortunately was a big negative consequence, but hey, that works too. If you get laid off, are you going to be willing to go spend as much time, effort, energy as you need to find the next job or opportunity, especially if you have a family? Of course you are, because your why is massive. If you've been in the same job for a long time, it's possible that you know that you're capable of more in or out of your current job, but you just don't necessarily have the motivation to get out there and do it, and you must create it. In fact, here at Mental Awesomeness, we will be doing a program called Foundation for Personal Creation, where we're going to focus on the fact that you create the results that you want. And I'm going to take this moment real quick to ask you at the end of this call, after this call, or right after it, go to mentalawesomeness.com and make sure that you're on our mailing list. It'll be really easy to find. In fact, I have a free gift for you, which is the 4 core foundations, which we're covering tonight. But by entering your name and email, you get the free 4 core foundation, but you're ensure that you're on our list so that you can hear about things that we're going to be doing. So please go to mentalawesomeness.com and make sure that we have your name and email address so that we can keep you posted. But that big reason why will change your life. And according to Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, if you haven't heard of them, most people have at least heard of Tony Robbins. He's like one of the godfathers of personal development. And they say, and Dean Graziosi is a real estate tycoon that now teaches personal development, and he's really awesome. But in order to find your true why, you have to go 7 levels deep. And here's what I mean by that. If I ask you why you might want to make more money with cryptocurrency, what would you say? Well, I want to provide a better life for my family. Okay, great. Super vague, not descriptive, there's no real clear, defined purpose there. So the next question would be, well, why do you want to provide a better life for your family? Now we're 2 levels down, right? Number 1 is, why would you want to make money? Number 2 is, why would you want to provide a better life for your family? And, maybe you're like, well, because I grew up in much poorer circumstances, and I want my kids to have opportunities that I didn't. Okay, great. There's level 3. So you get the idea, right? You keep asking those questions till you get to that 7th level, and that will get past kind of the superficial, vague answers to your reason why, and you will really have to dig in and find that true reason why. And then what you do with that is you focus on it daily, right? Where focus goes, attention flows and energy flows. And you will then begin to put more time, effort, energy into why and into what you can do now that your why is defined. And that is the importance of training balance scale, really dialing in your reason why, because the how-tos are all around us. You see them every day. You can't even scroll through any of your social media and not see 10 different ways that people are trying to get your attention, but they're also showing you ways that you could, in fact, improve the circumstances of your life if you were to apply it, but you have to determine if that's who you want to listen to, and that is the type of program that you want to engage in. Fortunately for me, in 2020, when I kind of really started digging into cryptocurrency, I found out that I'm actually really interested in this type of thing. And I found that I was passionate about it. I was reading about it all the time. I'm continually listening to bloggers and vloggers. And in fact, I even paid for a subscription to some people who have truly established themselves as professional cryptocurrency traders, so that I can see what they have to say. They have told me what their recommendations, right? What to buy, when to sell, and exactly how to buy. Like, it really is phenomenal. I had to pay. Some people might think it's an unreasonable amount of money, but I didn't. And in fact, my results that I received by listening to them, even though I took a super conservative approach and really just stayed in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I just dabbled in a couple of littler ones that they recommended. But guess what they did with their money in 2020? 10x. Kid you not. You could have turned 30,000 into 300,000 if you would have done everything that they recommended in 2020 alone. That is the type of potential that exists in cryptocurrency, and I happen to be interested enough in it. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, maybe you just have no interest in that, but that's okay. You could find something that interests you enough that you would want to research it and find ways to generate income with it if you choose. Training balance scale, that's principle number 3, is really digging into your reason why. So now let's move into principle number 4, which is technically it's the 4 steps to process new information, and understanding them. So step number 1 is called unconscious incompetence, meaning you do not know what you don't know. For example, in the world of cryptocurrency, there is a term called MetaMask. Have you ever heard of MetaMask before? If the answer is no, then previous to 10 seconds ago, you were unconsciously incompetent about MetaMask. You didn't even know it was a thing. But now that you've at least heard of it, you're now at the next level, which is called consciously incompetent. Now you know there's such a thing as MetaMask, but you don't know anything about it. So you're consciously incompetent. So you know that you don't know, essentially. So the next level is conscious competence. So now I'm going to teach you a little bit about MetaMask and what it is, and you could then go do some research about it. If you decide to get into cryptocurrency, you're going to want MetaMask. And essentially what it is for today's purposes is it's an anonymous cryptocurrency online wallet. Yeah, so that's what MetaMask is, right? So now you're consciously competent about MetaMask. And what you could do is, if you start researching it and you start using it and you learn how it functions and the things that you can do with it, and let's say you use it for several years, then you would reach the 4th level, which is called unconscious competence. I like to use the example of playing the piano for this particular level of understanding, right? When you first learn how to play the piano, you're terrible. So you know that you're no good. And then you have to go through the years of putting hours per week, maybe even hours per day if you find that you absolutely love the piano. But you're consciously, competently choosing to practice the piano. And after years and years, you're so good at the piano that you're then unconsciously competent. And you see the people that can play and sing, and even maybe kind of have a semi-conversation while they're playing the piano and not miss a beat or not miss a note. That's when you're unconsciously competent. at playing the piano. You're so good, it's almost like second nature. That's what it means to get to that level. They say that it requires 10,000 hours of doing a thing to become considered an expert at it. That's what we're talking about, to get to that unconscious, competent level. So by understanding this goes back to the law of the harvest, right? You reap what you sow, and you must take care of the seed for a long enough period of time and consistently enough to actually reap the reward of the seed, right? And that's what this is. That's what this is implying, right? Unfortunately, we live in a microwave mentality today. We want things now. We want them instantly. We want results. We don't want to put in too much effort. We don't want to work too hard. We don't want to change our diet. We don't want to change, going back to change, right? That's why it's so important. Principle number 2, willingness to accept change. So change can happen, but it can be difficult because we've almost been socially programmed to want things now and easy and cheap and without a whole lot of effort. And that just is not the reality of how things work. And that is the importance of understanding these 4 steps to processing new information. That it's going to require a ton of conscious competence before you're any good at it. So I hope that after our time together tonight, that you are willing to go out and put a little time and effort into learning about Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency and Coinbase and MetaMask, right? So I would really start with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Coinbase, MetaMask. You really need those 4 things to get started in cryptocurrency. And those are 4 things that you can go out and learn about very quickly. I hope that you've enjoyed this combination of the 4 core concepts of success and learning a little bit about this new opportunity that has presented itself to all of us in cryptocurrency, and that you'll take a little time to put some effort in and to start researching if it's something that you'd be interested in exploring further. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Actually, I do want to check with my partner real quick to see if any questions came through. And that's a negative ghostwriter, so we are going to wrap it up tonight. Thanks for joining. Hope you have a great night. Much appreciated.